gentlemen, family, and friends, it is my honor to introduce to you our guest speaker today. Lieutenant Commander Kyle M. Crass is a native of Montesano. He has earned his commission as an ensign in Civil Engineering Corps upon completion of Officer Candidate School in November of 2005. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil and Environmental Engineering from the University of Washington and a Master's of Business Administration from Keller Graduate School of Management. Lieutenant Commander Crass has worked overseas in Iraq and Djibouti. He has also worked closer to home in both California and Nevada. For his work, Lieutenant Commander Crass is qualified as a CB Combat Warfare Officer, a Fleet Marine Force Officer, and a Defense Acquisitions Workforce Level 2 Officer. Lieutenant Commander Crass has earned the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Navy Commendation Medals, and 2 Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medals. Lieutenant Commander Crass is a 2001 graduate of Montesano High School, and that deserves an applause. As a Bulldog, Kyle earned many awards. Among these are the Football 2000 Offensive MVP and Captain, Basketball's Most Inspirational, and Baseball's 2001 Most Valuable Player and Most Inspirational Award. He also was awarded the highly honored Don Parks Award. I met Kyle Crass many years ago as a 7th grade student. As he grew up, I had the opportunity to coach Kyle in football, a little bit of basketball, and especially baseball. Kyle was an extremely coachable student athlete. Practicing hard, competing successfully, and doing well in the classroom were very important to Kyle. His accomplishments in the military are not a surprise based on what I have witnessed while he attended MHS and college. Kyle and his family have been lifelong friends. He has accomplished many things in his life, but I'm sure he would say that his greatest accomplishment has been to marry his wife, Amy, and the birth of his 2 children, Liam and Connor. Today, it gives me great pride and honor to welcome back home again, not only a military service member, but a Bulldog military service member. Please join me in giving a warm Bulldog welcome to Lieutenant Commander Kyle Crass.
Thank you guys. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Some of you guys in the gray. You guys all wore the same shirts today. It's funny listening to you guys giving applause because you guys almost go into like the chant for introducing folks at a football game, so I find that kind of interesting. But good morning. That was it? One person responded? Hey, I just first off wanted to start off by saying thank you guys. Thank you for hosting this event. Thank you to Mrs. Pocklington. I almost called her by her first name, but that's a big no-no. So, thank you to Mrs. Pocklington for reaching out to me, asking me to join you guys today. It's kind of interesting. I'm never usually someone that's actually able to speak where my family is in the audience. Usually I'm kind of by myself in some other part of the world. So this is a really good opportunity for me to kind of convey some thoughts to you guys, but also recognize the folks in my family. I want to start off by saying go Dogs tonight. Kingsway Christian, right? That's who you guys are playing at home. You guys got a half a day. It's a good day today. You guys get a little assembly, go back to class, like talk about the day, and then get out of here and go focus on football, right? Better. Don't get distracted between the end of school and start of the game. I just wanted to do a special thanks to my parents, Steve and Lonnie, who are right down here in the front row, and some of my other extended family here, my Aunt Kim, my cousin Josh, his wife Allie, my mother-in-law Becky, for supporting my family in my endeavor that is the Navy. So if you guys could give them a round of applause. And last but certainly most of all, thank you to my wife and children. You know, I stand up here as the guest speaker today, but every single Navy job that I do, my wife does with me. And I think one of the things that you guys may not realize is certainly being a reservist. You know, when I get deployed and when I go and do what I do for the reserves, I just leave. I'm gone. There's no command to watch after my family. There's no real support group. I'm in my civilian life, and then all of a sudden I'm out. And this last one I know is especially hard for my family. So I just wanted to give my wife a thanks, and I love you. How about a round of applause for my wife? So I wrote down a bunch of words on paper. I'm going to go through them here, and hopefully it's at least somewhat entertaining. So I'm going to start off. It's an honor to be able to stand here before you today and be the guest speaker at a Veterans Day event such as this. For those of you who don't know me, Mr. Pocklington did a great job of introducing me. The last time I was in this gym on this floor, there was one funeral, and the last time it was when I graduated, so it's been a little while. I feel like I remember the building being a little bit bigger. So I grew up just around the corner. I played a little football out there, but the field is much improved since I was on it. It doesn't have like all the standing water and the mud and the nasty smell that used to be out there. I attempted to play some basketball in this gym, which, if you guys look back in the records of the basketball team at that time, we got a lot of effort. Let's put it that way. Some baseball. We did a lot of baseball in this gym. But I went to the University of Washington in Seattle. It was there while walking to class that I had my first exposure to the Navy and consideration of being in the Navy in the Civil Engineer Corps. So I'm only in the Navy because of free pizza. I know. So if someone ever tells you there's no such thing as a free lunch, believe them, because look at me, I got free lunch and then now I'm wondering where I'm at. So I'm walking to class, I smell some pizza in the conference room, I walk in, the guy says, hey, I go, is this free? And he goes, yeah, all you gotta do is listen to a little brief. And I'm like, well, what the heck is a brief? He's like, yeah, it's a presentation. So I'm like, okay, deal. So fast forward a few months, next thing you know, I'm in San Diego getting interviewed to be a part of the Navy. After graduation, went to Officer Candidate School down in Florida. I was assigned to Naval Facilities Engineering Command out of Fallon, Nevada. Yeah, not near the water. Think Top Gun, because that's actually where it's at now. So I was stationed there, and I took a 6-month deployment to Iraq. This was in 2008 timeframe, and looking back on it now, in 2008, we had myself was in Iraq. My cousin Josh, I think, was in Iraq or had just come back from Iraq. My cousin Daniel was over there, and as well as one other cousin, I believe. So my grandparents and my parents had a lot to think about at that period of time. Anyways, fast forward, I was at NMCB4 as an assistant air detachment commander. I wanted to focus more on construction, less on the Navy, so I left active duty in 2010 and joined the Army Corps of Engineers. I spent 3 full years as a civilian before I decided I missed what the Navy was about, what the Navy provided me before I came back in. So I began my reserve career with NMCB 18 as the assistant operations officer. Went to Naval Construction Group 1 as the OIC there, and then I volunteered to go to Djibouti to be the Joint Special Operations Task Force engineer. This is my first deployment since meeting my wife. It was also a couple months after having our first child, so that deployment was about 14 months long. During that deployment, I was screened to be the executive officer for Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 2-2. For those of you who don't know, the executive officer is number 2 in charge of about 580 men and women that make up a CV battalion. So I leave that post here in about 2 weeks, and it's been rewarding, but it's a lot of effort. So, fun fact, it's been 15 years in the Navy. I've never set foot on a ship, ever, not one time. So I've got about 5 years to go, so I'm hoping to not break that streak. And I've had people offer to take me on the ships, and I just say I can't do it because I've got this far in. So I spent a lot of time wondering what it is I'm supposed to say. To me, when I think of Veterans Day, I think of old black and white newsreels, war footage from World War I, World War II. I think of members of the VFW, as well as services that I've attended in places, like Fleet Park or maybe at the Wainushi Cemetery where they play taps and some members of the military show up. I think of Pearl Harbor, Korea, color videos from Vietnam, movies such as Saving Private Ryan, We Were Soldiers, Band of Brothers, and 13 Hours, which is, I got a whole different story about 13 Hours. But, not sure if anybody's ever seen those, but those all depict American conflicts from the perspective of the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who are directly engaged in combat. So that kind of got me thinking, what is Veterans Day and why do we celebrate it? It was originally known as Armistice Day and was first celebrated in 1919 to commemorate the first anniversary of the end of World War I. Eventually it progressed to be known as Veterans Day and is celebrated now on November 11th every year in the United States. Did you guys know that almost every nation celebrates their military members or former members every year, one way or the other? So why is that? Why does society celebrate its warriors? And what is it about the warriors and their acts that makes them worthy of celebration? At its most basic level, war is effectively the use of violence to solve a disagreement. We certainly aren't celebrating violence or violent acts that these warriors carry out. And most certainly those warriors are flawed men and women, just as the rest of society. So what is it about them that makes them the center of an entire day of celebration and thanks? And who are these men and women, and why are they so special? These men and women are just like you, your teachers, your parents, and members of the greater Montesano community, and really the society of America as a whole. They're your aunt, your uncle, your brother or sister. Members of the U.S. military come from all walks of life with all different backgrounds and stories. They're people that decide that they wanted to be part of something that was greater than themselves. They volunteered to serve their country and its interests. They raised their right hand and willingly joined an elite military force unlike the world has ever known. Today's military consists of about 1.4 million active duty and around 860,000 reserve and guard forces. That's 2.3 million service members nationwide. The population of America is roughly 329 people. So those members who volunteer to serve their country is about 0.7%. So think about that. 0.7% of the population of America. So if you extend that out to the number of veterans living in this country, it's about 18 million roughly. So it's 5.5% of the population of this country right now that's ever served. So why does 94.5% of the population of this country find the actions of 5.5% worthy of a national holiday, an entire day dedicated to what they've done? It's because those men and women made a conscious choice to put the welfare of others ahead of their own. They made it their job to carry out the defense of this nation and the American way of life. The other 94.5% of the nation find that decision to be noble and worthy of thanks. Because when faced with that same choice, those that haven't served chose a different path. Now, I'm not comparing those that have served against those that haven't served. I'm just merely illustrating the decision point there. In return, the majority of Americans want to express their gratitude for those 5.5% who put a stranger's welfare above their own and chose to serve on their behalf. So why would these men and women do that? In conflict, we hear of amazing feats, running into battle, risking life and limb, knowingly sacrificing themselves. What would cause an otherwise ordinary citizen who just raised their right hand and went to boot camp to act that way? It's not for the money. I can tell you that. What's an E1 make, Josh? Not much. You almost made more when you lived at your parents' house, right? So it's certainly not for the money. It's darn sure not for an award or some medal that you might get if the paperwork goes through when you get home, if you live. That's not it. It's something far greater and far more important than paper money or a shiny medal. It's because they know that if it's not them, then it's going to be their brother or sister that's serving alongside of them that's going to be left to face what they could not. It's because they chose to serve their fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines by doing the difficult, the impossible, and at times the unthinkable, so that the person to their left or right doesn't have to. Putting someone else's needs above your own. It's the very definition of service. I even looked it up just as I wanted to do it. So Merriam-Webster says service is contribution to the welfare of others. Members of the military are prepared to pay that contribution with their lives if necessary. When I originally joined the military, I thought that the term service was just a nickname for the armed forces. After spending 15 years in the Navy, I can tell you that it definitely has a different meaning now. When I was on this last deployment, I had only seen my youngest son Connor for just over 2 months. When I got back, he was 16 months old. You know, I felt the cost of that service, and others have paid far, far greater prices. Some have paid with their lives. But I'm proud to say that I served the military in this country by applying my skills as an engineer in the Civil Engineer Corps in the U.S. Navy Seabees. All right, I just want to know, who knows what the Seabees are? Raise your hand. Yeah, no one out there? 2 people? All right, I got some homework for you, and I know you guys didn't think I was going to give you homework, but here we go. If you've never heard of the Seabees, you need to go out. You probably need to look this up. I don't even know if it's on Netflix or Prime or whatever, but you got to find the John Wayne movie, The Fighting Seabees. John Wayne, Susan Hayward, it's a goodie. You'll learn everything you need to know, but I'm only slightly kidding about that. The Seabees are the Navy's construction force. We aren't designed to kill the enemy, although we have the capability to defend the assets in the area we occupy, but we're primarily a construction force. So we create the ability to make war, but we also have a peacetime mission, serving the local populations of countries of interest to the United States and the Navy for use in the event that things deteriorate in the specific regions of the world. It's satisfying to serve through building and creating, constantly making things better. Better for the locals in the area of operation we're in, and better for the warfighter, and really better for everyone. Service is by no means something unique to the military. Every community has those that serve and has opportunities to serve. Our teachers serve, our community leaders serve, our first responders serve. I had the fortune to grow up in a home of one such first responder. My father was a paramedic and firefighter here in Montana for 30 years. His dedication to service taught me and instilled in me a desire to serve. Serving the community is a satisfying experience. And service isn't something that has bounds on it or is defined by some specific set of criteria. I challenge you to find ways to serve others. Serve your community, serve your school, serve your church, your family, whatever. Find some way to serve others this Veterans Day and really all days that you can. Do something for your parents or your grandparents or a friend and show that level of compassion and caring that those members of the military do towards each other. Get involved in something greater than yourself and support something that benefits others that are less fortunate. Create that brotherhood and sisterhood within your own community. Take action and do it unabashedly. Do it with conviction. It's easy to stand on the sidelines and judge the actions of others. It's much more difficult to get involved and be a catalyst for change. There's already enough violence and hatred in the world. I've witnessed some of it firsthand. I challenge you to counter that with kindness and compassion through service. In closing, take time this Veterans Day to reflect on the folks in your life that are serving or have served, and think of ways that you can serve to continue that legacy of service.